Hey everybody, Aaron Bishop here with another Bishop's Blurb. All throughout the Bible, we read of temptation. Various things that can occur in our lives that can lead us to then taking sinful action. Now, there are many types of sin and many types of temptation that are described in the Bible. But when you get down to it, these temptations can all be reduced to three primary motivations. And we find these three motivations revealed in several stories in the Bible, in both the Old and the New Testament. Let me show you what I mean. The book of Numbers starts off rather slow, but in chapter 11, the narratives begin to kick off. And from chapter 11 to 14, we find a series of three narratives of failures among the people of Israel. Chapter 11, the people cry out for food other than manna, and they hold up Egypt as the place of good provision. Well, needless to say, the story doesn't end well for Israel. This we can call the temptation of desire. Chapter 12 then features a more intimate story of the siblings of Moses, talking about him behind his back. Verse 2 is extremely important in this chapter because just after tearing Moses down, they attempt to elevate themselves. Aren't we just as important as Moses? Because God has spoken to us just like he's spoken to Moses. We can call this the temptation of pride or self-elevation. Chapter 13 through 14 then tells the stories of the spies in Canaan and the evil report that they gave in the land. Now notice in chapter 13 that the problem wasn't the land itself. The problem was the people who inhabited the land. They were too powerful to overcome. Now we can call this the temptation of power. And the temptation of power has two different sides. There is the side of it where you try to gain power for yourself, or there's the side of it where you don't think that God is powerful enough to overcome it. In this case, it was the second side. From these stories, we find the roots of rebellion that is the center of the book in Numbers chapter 16. When we turn to the New Testament, we find another story of a wilderness journey that's fraught with temptations. After his baptism, Jesus heads into the wilderness, and once again we read of three temptations, with the same three basic motivations. Temptation 1, take this rock and turn it into bread and eat it. This is a test of desire. Will you go against God's plan for you in order to gratify your flesh? Temptation number 2, the offer of power over all of the kingdoms of the world. This is the test of power. This time, it's on the side of seizing power. Will you seize power illegitimately, or will you wait for God's timing? Temptation 3, then, throw yourself off the temple and reveal yourself to the world as the Messiah. God has to help you. This is a test of pride. Will you elevate yourself to the highest place, or will you once again wait for God to raise you up? Now, this pattern isn't limited to these stories. There are many biblical characters who are faced with these same three basic temptations: the desire to gratify the flesh, the desire to be seen and acclaimed and lifted high, and the desire to exercise power over others, or alternatively, to not trust that God has the power to take you through something that he's put you in. Now, each of these motivations, they do have some limited righteous outlets, but the Bible seems to say that it is the pursuit of these things outside of God's will that is at the root of all temptation.